It is an honor to introduce my friend and guest, Joe Boone from Big House Construction. Welcome, Joe.
I appreciate you having me, Karen.
Yes, thank you for volunteering and
Yeah.
your time to be here with us today. Well, I want to just go ahead and dive into, your story. How did you get to where you are today? And tell us a little bit about, Big House Construction.
Yeah, I mean that's a long story, so it just depends on where you want to start. Because big house and roofing, I've only been doing about a year and a half, but the path to here has been kind of dynamic. You know what I mean?
Well, tell me more about your journey and.
Yeah. So 2009, I joined the Marine Corps. Did a couple deployments to Afghanistan, and then I got out. I had a back injury. I'm going to make this really short and sweet. 'Cause
Okay.
The stuff that's I think valuable for your listeners is going to be the sales and that kind of stuff. What homeowners are interested in when we do door knocking, that kind of thing. I had a really bad back injury from my service, and what that turned into, or what that was originally, was numbness in my feet when I was doing forced marches and runs and that kind of thing. But I was a leader, so I couldn't just sit down and say this doesn't work. I was a corporal and then promoted to a sergeant. This is before my last deployment, so I would go to BAS, which is just the battalion aide, say, hey, something's going on. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
They say it's shin splints, and if anybody is familiar with the service, they're going to tell you it's something, and then it's not that, just to get you back into the field. It ended up being, and I didn't find this out until I got out, because I stopped going to the battalion medical, because they just kept telling me the same thing. Stop running for 2 weeks, change your socks, here's some Motrin. That's the standard for, whatever the injury is. If your leg's not blown off, just change your socks and drink some water.
Oh my gosh.
But it ended up being nerve damage in my back, and I had 2 herniated discs that were putting pressure on the nerves that were affecting my left leg. And the inflammation was so bad from all the running and all the hiking and all the everything that, you'd wear 100 plus pounds of gear to train and to do this and to do that, that it also affected my right leg at a certain point. So my feet would go numb. The worst that I experienced it was one time we were doing a 15-mile hike, full pack, and my leg on my left side from the thigh down went numb. My right side from the knee down.
Was that the first time you felt that?
That was the worst time, not the
worst.
first time.
Okay. Yeah.
I would just push through it, and that time I had to sit down like something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember how I got through the rest of it. I think I just kind of just pushed through it, and honestly, not saying more and not being like, "Hey, this is a problem," because what I really did was, "Hey, this is a problem. Oh, here's the solution. Change your socks. That's not working. I'm just going to push through." That's the short end of what happened with me, and I got out because the medical treatment wasn't what it should have been. My back was the problem, but they were telling me it was shin splints, or it was this, or it was that. Not
just
shin
take
splints.
Motrin.
Yeah, like what kind of solution is that? So I got out thinking I'll get medical treatment when I get out. So there wasn't a lot of paperwork. So now I'm dealing with the VA saying, well, there's no paperwork. This isn't service connected.
Interesting.
And going down that path and getting some progress. This is 2014 when I got out, so it's 10 years later. I'm finally getting some progress there. But that created a lot of adversity for me on top of the 2 Afghan deployments and the Kuwait deployment. So I had all of that, plus dealing with the transition into civilian world, plus me and some of my cohort were getting out at a certain point, and there were, I don't know, a couple hundred of us in the battalion that were going to get out during our last deployment. So they said, you can either stay back and get out while we're gone, or you can train with us, extend your contract for a certain period, and get out when we get back. Well, what does someone like me do, or anyone? They're not going to say, yeah, I just want to get out. That's the lazy thing to do, right? Especially when you're a leader.
Yeah.
Extended my contract. So I did all of my...
For how long? So how?
30 days.
Okay.
Well, 30 days past the get back day. So I think it was like a 3-month extension for me, and everybody was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, I did all my getting out of service things before the last deployment, so that when you get back, all you have to do is get your paperwork signed and go home. So I got back from my worst deployment, and in 30 days I was at home. Add the back injury on top of that. Add the transition back to civilian world on top of that. It created some situations that weren't the most desirable. You know what I mean? Like there should be I'm sure there is now, but there should be a better transition for people that are getting out. We had a lot of suicides from that combination of things. But not everybody had my experience, but they did have go on deployment, come back, 30 days later, you're home.
Specifically from where you were, like friends of yours?
Yeah, my unit.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there was a point when I got off Facebook because every time I got on, our unit had another suicide. I was like, this is not helping. You know, and I went down that path myself. It's a pretty dark situation. So,
did you find resources like to transition, back to like everyday life kind of thing?
No, I just
Do you feel like there is now? Yeah.
Well, the protocol should be better than come back from a combat deployment, get out. There should be a little bit more there.
Yeah.
Especially when like the questionnaire for do you have this, PTS or PTSD, whichever you prefer. To me, it's not a disorder. Everyone has PTS from some thing in their life, whether they're military or not. You just have to be able to, process that thing and move on. It's not a disorder. It's part of life.
Yeah.
And they ask questions that you can say yes or no to. What's a proud person going to say? No, I don't have this problem. Yes, I sleep. Yes, I, do this. No, I don't drink. You know what I mean? Like it's really easy to just check all the boxes and move on. And then you go out into the world and you do actually have those problems and they were never addressed because the paperwork says you're good.
Yeah. Or maybe someone could honestly feel okay in that moment, but then you go home and then maybe a week later something happens and then it triggers something and then
Absolutely.
It's just like cycles of things.
Absolutely. And I only know my experience, but I know there are plenty of guys who don't experience, or gals who don't experience that type of triggering event or the, accumulation of their stress turning into something that causes that for months or years, right? Like you went through this experience and you're pushing through. It doesn't actually cause effects until 2 years later. You know what I mean? And you don't even know you have that problem until it pops up and you're acting like a crazy person or, whatever happens to you. You can't sleep for some reason.
Yeah.
But that was a transition. So that was a lot of adversity there. And then
did it feel like the longest 3 months? Like when you said you extended your time there
No.
Did you learn a lot or you just?
No, I mean, it's what I wanted. That's why I joined, was to do the thing. You joined to go fight the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, well, why did I do that? But, that's why I joined, to be a leader, to get into those things. It attracts a certain personality type. You know what I mean? Like you want that sense of purpose, that mission, that camaraderie. You want all of those things. So that's why you go do it. And like, absolutely, I'm going to re-up my contract for 3 months to go back to the desert. Why wouldn't I? Most people are like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like, no,
it says a lot about you. I mean, definitely thank you for your service. And I would hope that listeners out there, we can maybe somehow link something, some associations, to help the cause of the suicide and some type of benefit out there that we can, support because that's huge. And I'm sorry you lost so many, friends and loved ones.
Yeah, it's part of life though, right?
But when you came back, you were obviously in a lot of pain with your legs. Like, what were you able to seek something outside of the traditional medical approach? And, how was that?
Chiropractic, 100%. That was my first move. When I got out, I was told that my body guarded. So I would run and lift every day, twice a day, you know, run one part of the day, lift the other part of the day. And then I got out, I was like, I'm just going to continue to do that. Nope. As soon as my body realized that I no longer had to put a pack on, I no longer had to put a flak on, I no longer had to run in boots, no longer had to do those things, my body's like, okay, it's time to relax. So the muscles that were guarding the spine and like holding it together, they relax. So that meant the pain went sky high. I was like, I got to figure this out. So I went to a chiropractor and had an MRI, and sure enough, L4, L5, and L5, S1 herniated discs with a bulge putting pressure on the nerve. But he said that the reason I was able to do everything that I was at that point, and probably now, was because of the core strength that I had. But he said that on top of your body locking everything up in there to keep it all stable, that's why you didn't have the pain up until now, because your body was in protection mode. I don't even remember the event that caused the injury. I have no idea what happened.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
but
No clue.
man.
I could have fallen off. I mean, I jumped out of trucks. We didn't do like low altitude jumps, but you know, you're jumping, if a helo's 3 feet off the ground, you're jumping off with all that gear on. Maybe I landed a certain way. I no clue.
And to this day, how do you feel? Like, I mean,
It's a constant thing. So I mean, I have to make sure I'm doing certain things, you know, mobility, that kind of stuff. But it's there. I can feel it. It's not painful the way it used to be because I've done certain protocols, and I go to the chiropractor regularly to do decompressions. They put me on this table and it pulls me apart and basically creates space for the vertebra and the disc to take pressure off each other and then reset. So, I mean, I'm doing everything to not get back surgery. That's
Yeah.
the goal.
yeah.
You know?
And it's like we have those kind of options, you know, like more natural things, or not just putting a Band-Aid on
Yeah.
on the pain, and actually making
Absolutely.
improvements to your body. I know you recently, I don't know how recent, but I know you wrote some books, like sharing
Yeah.
like, you know, nutrition topics. Tell me a little bit about the books that you've written.
Yeah, that's a good transition, because essentially what happened is I got out and I didn't have that sense of purpose anymore, and my body was breaking. It felt like it was breaking down. I couldn't do the things that I was told that I'd never lift heavy again. I was told that this would be the new normal, that I'd be in a wheelchair at some point. And I was like, I do not accept that as my
Yeah.
fate. There's no way. That is not happening. So I did the chiropractic thing, by the way, all out of my own pocket, you know, because they didn't recognize it as a service connection
Oh my gosh.
thing. I don't know how many thousands of dollars I've given chiropractors.
It's not cheap either.
No, it's not. But I say that to say that put me on a different path, right? I had the GI Bill, and I decided to go back to school. And I was like, I love fitness. I've been training twice a day for the last 5.5 years. I'm going to focus on that. So I went and got my undergrad, but with the kind of drive and passion that I have for the thing that is my purpose, whatever that might be, at that whatever phase I am in, then it was education on my body. So I did the undergraduate thing. I was like, this isn't enough information for me. I was the nerd, you know, what about this? You know, in the front of the class, always raising my hand.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, this is not enough. So I went out on my own, like studying and studying and studying and studying. And I was like, oh, I need a different way to consume this information. So I started writing everything. And it came out to be like this 300-page thing in Word. And I was like, this could be a
Wow.
book.
How long did that take you?
I guess about 3 years.
Okay.
And I went to one of my professors, like, hey, I have this thing. Like, do you think I could like do a book? She's like, yeah, but you need to do citations. Especially the way your mind works, you need, you know, tie everything back to actual evidence. So I did that. And then I, you know, got in touch with an editor, and I got in touch with a graphic designer for the cover and all that kind of stuff. And I put them on Amazon. There's 5 books. So 4 of them are a 4-part series: Healthy Body, Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And part 1 is nutrition. Part 2 is nutrition and exercise. So like fueling, exercise, recovery, all that kind of stuff, supplements. The third one is exercise and like the types, like defining, people like to put things in boxes and they really shouldn't be in boxes. It's dynamic. The effects of different types of exercise. Like there's this, unfortunately, more people think that weight training and heavy training is for men than more for women. Like that's completely true. It should be the opposite. Women should be more focused on lifting heavy weights more so than men because of the physiological differences.
Interesting.
Because of bone density, because of hormonal profiles. It's
So you share about that in the book?
absolutely.
And so
100%.
that's the fourth one?
That's the third one.
The third.
Fourth one is mindset and motivation. And then the fifth is goal setting. It's a very simple read, how to set effective goals pointed at exercise, but the principles can apply to any goal set.
That's amazing.
So I did that as my new purpose. That's what I'm driven to, this purpose.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you said, did you write all of that throughout that time and then just kind of, chose different sections to piece different types of books together, I guess?
So I wrote the 4-part series as a single book to begin with. And then I was like, well, what about goals? And I put together the goal setting one. Mm-hmm. But I originally self-published it on Amazon as one book. And I was like, this is really, nobody's going to read this. It was 300 and some odd pages with I don't know how many citations. So I broke it up. It's more consumable. It's like if someone just wants nutrition or someone just wants, the third one not only has exercise, but also breaks down the primary movements. So like the squat is the primary movement for a leg push because all muscles pull, but you have an open and closed exercise. So open would be like a bicep curl. You're not connected to the ground. A close is a push-up. So you can take a foundational movement like the squat and say, all right, what else comes from the squat? But it all ties back to that movement. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So I break down technique on the 4 primary movements, which are your squat, your deadlift, your upper body push, and your upper body pull.
Tricky motion, for someone that is not used to it, there is a science to it. You need to properly, lift the barbell, and you can easily hurt yourself because you're doing the motions incorrectly. So knowing, the way to grab certain equipment and then what it's doing for you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't pay attention to how they move their body. So it is, if you're getting into it and if you've never done it before, or you're doing it and you've never educated yourself on it, we don't typically engage the muscles the way we're supposed to. Obviously it's like a learned behavior. So some people will over time correct their technique without any direction, but a lot of people will jump into it and they'll do this thing and they'll hurt themselves.
That would be me.
They'll never come back to it. So the goal of that part of the book is to have some educational information on, all right, well, when I'm squatting, how do I make sure that my spine is neutral and that my hips are in the right place and my feet are in the right place? Because some people, they'll just try it oh, my knees hurt. It's like, well, how did you move?
Yeah, you're doing it incorrectly, probably.
So,
oh my goodness.
But yeah, I mean, that's that. I mean, it's crazy because that wasn't the goal. But it became this thing that, now when people ask, I'm like, well, why don't you check out the book? It's got a lot of information. I can answer questions, but I've already done all the work and put it into this thing that you can read. So.
Well, we'll definitely link your Amazon book so people can go check that out because this sounds like some really great resources that you now have available. Do you find yourself saying that sometimes, when you're talking a lot, you're like, why don't you just... It
depends. Some people have, I don't tell everybody, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where if it comes up, I'll mention it. But if not, I'm not out there telling everybody about it. I've never even paid for any marketing ads on Amazon. You know,
Yeah.
it's just there.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm the same way with my book, so which I only have one. So, do you feel like you've always been that way? Like you have that drive to like help other people and like, or something, all of
It's,
that.
yeah. No, I haven't always been like that.
He's laughing.
It started when I was in the Marine Corps,
Mm.
because I was put in a leadership position. And at that point, like what is the purpose of a leader? The purpose of a leader is to coach, teach, make people better, guide people. And that was like the first time that seed was planted in my mind that, that's something that's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't, before that, no, but I was a kid. So like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And so, you were sharing some of your journey back, how many years later, like now you're at Big House Construction. Tell me a little bit about your current role there and
Yeah.
what you do day in and day out.
So currently I'm the sales trainer and, the technical title. I train all the salespeople. I run
Okay.
all the meetings, I do kind of big picture stuff. But it all comes down to door knocking and making that more efficient, making sure our guys are set up for success so that they can, because we're 1099 structure. We're sales contractors.
Okay.
Everybody within our organization is outside of the admin personnel. So it's, can you bring business in? And if you're not bringing as much as you want, how do we make you better? That's my goal, or that's my, responsibility.
Right.
Coming up with the materials, coming up with the trainings, doing the things in the field that need to be done, improving processes. Because what we do is insurance work, mostly. We full construction, but I'm on the roofing side, and our roofing side it's probably 95% insurance. So
Yeah.
that's a long sales cycle. So depending on the insurance company and the different aspects of that prospect's, cycle, is it one adjuster meeting? Is it two? Are they going to involve an engineer? What's the scenario? So you can start a sales cycle with one customer and get paid in 6 months, or you can start it and get paid in 30 days. It just depends. So it's very variable.
That's a big range.
Yeah. Like a tree on a house. That's a very complicated job. That's going to take some time.
Mm-hmm.
But my purpose is to make sure that the systems and the processes and the procedures are there. They know what they need to do on day one when they come on board with us. They know what works because we've done, the mistakes that we've made. So they're out there just doing the things that work. Put energy into the things that work and don't even think about these things that don't work, right?
What do you think are the most common like misconceptions about door knocking sales?
I think that depends on if you're talking about someone who's in it or someone who's looking outside saying, this about door knockers.
Well, both.
You know what I mean? Because there's business owners that will say that makes you look desperate,
Mm-hmm.
or that's sleazy. Why is it sleazy? Because salespeople are sleazy. You know what I mean? That's the old way of looking at sales. That's the Danny DeVito car salesman.
Yeah.
With the slick back hair, all that kind of stuff. You have to change your perspective of what door knocking is. Door knocking is going direct to customer with no cost other than your gas and your insurance. You know what I mean? We give free inspections, but that costs us money.
Yeah.
So like, what's the money you're spending on, I'm talking more to like the contractors and the business owners, but what's the money you're spending on getting a lead? What if it's just gas and just your auto premium? That's why it's more effective for us, because we don't have to pay for leads that other people also are paying for. Mm-hmm. We're going out direct to the house. I'm qualifying them based on what I see here. That looks like potential hail damage. Let me find out if I can do a free inspection for them, confirm it, and then get them in the pipeline.
So what percentage is that like, because you talked about the sales cycle. So that's like the beginning is mostly door knocking is what?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, You knock a door. The majority of jobs are not 6 months. It doesn't take that long, but those do come up. But I mean, I guess I should say the conception of door knocking is it's the most effective way to get leads if you can qualify someone just by looking at the house for us. So for roofing, it's very effective. You know what I mean? You can look at the house, be like, yes or no. All right, move on to the next one. You know what I mean? For other types of marketing, they're going to call in and say, hey, I need this, that, and the other, and they're shopping you out. I can be the only person they work with if I create enough value face-to-face and they trust me. Instead of saying, the homeowner calls 3 people. Now you're going up against that instead of, hey, Mr. Homeowner, this is what's going on. This is why I'm here. And then you build all that value through that conversation. Mm-hmm. And whatever else you're doing in that. Because, I mean, I brought you that sales book, but if the thing is, homeowners do not want to be sold. And most people think a door knocker is going to sell them. So what I teach and what we teach as an organization is create the reasons to buy. Because when you start to sell someone, when you start to justify why they should work with you, that's the sleazy salesperson, right? So I teach question-based sales. I mean, that's what everyone's doing now because that's what works. People don't want to be sold. They want to have agency in what they're buying.
Yeah.
You know.
Can you share a specific story of a team member who overcame a significant challenge and achieved success, whether that was through door knocking or just a certain job that you guys were out doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can share mine.
Yeah.
Just in general, big picture. When you're a 1099 sales, what you do is different than a commission-based person who's being fed leads, right? So they may get anywhere from 3 to 12%. So with roofing, it's different, and it differs from organization to organization, but we pay on a profit share. Most roofing companies do because you're bringing the business in, right? So if you do $1 million in sales, you're on average taking home 20% of that. So we didn't go completely into my story, but after I graduated school was right during COVID, and I was in human performance. I had done my thesis with NFL level athletes. I studied the jump and the sprint for the combine. Guys that were going to the combine, I studied them and their dynamics as far as hooking them up to equipment. Mm-hmm. So I had landed a job with O2X. They're a big contracting company for municipalities, so police departments, fire departments, military. I landed the human performance director of ODA in Virginia. And that money was on the table, but not signed for. COVID came in, money went to public health, obviously. So I had to, pivot. I was working for Colonial Pipeline, which is the biggest, at least on the East Coast, for moving refined petroleum up and down the coast. Wearing a hard hat every day, working in the rain, working in the whatever. I was like, this is not it. So let me go to sales. I went to HVAC sales at home. Then I was like, this is not it. I'm flipping a house. I took all my money out of the stock market and flipped a house. And I was like, I can't do that over and over and over. I met my sales manager, or the director of sales, Randall. And I was in the business for 4 months, and I'd already put $500,000 in the pipeline.
In 4 months.
Mm-hmm. So I worked 4 months and made $100,000.
What was your secret?
Do the thing that you need to do. Most people, the reason they're unsuccessful is because they listen to the devil in their head. I'm a big believer, and I'm not telling other people what to believe, but whether it's the devil or your subconscious or the devil, that thing is convincing you that fear is real. How do I know what that person's going to say to me if I say, hey, my name is Joe, your house looks like some of the ones that we got approved recently with the hail damage in the area? How do I know what they're going to say? Most people will not knock that door because they assume they're going to tell them no, and they're afraid of failure. So like you can apply that to anything, but you just have to consciously tell yourself, what if they say yes?
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like people always like, well, what if this? What if that? What if the good thing happens?
Yeah.
Do you know Ed Milet? Oh, you'd love him. So his book is called The Power of One More. Power of one more phone call. The power of one more email. The power of one more door knock. The power of one more conversation. What if, and I've watched him speak in California last year. Amazing speaker. What if the good thing happened instead of what if the bad thing happened? Because your subconscious is always going to look for the thing that protects you, because your subconscious is really about keeping you safe. But safety and freedom are opposites. So I just have to embody that in whatever I'm doing. And I did that with roofing. I did that with door knocking, and it turned into what it turned into.
So now that you have these guys that you train, that's a lot of what you are
Yeah.
putting in them is like mindset coaching and, for the sales training.
So it's a combination of a lot of things, but mindset is huge. You know, I'm a big believer that if you don't believe you're capable of winning, you'll never win. At the end of that book, one of the things it says is the winner decided they could win before they went on the field. And salesmen are athletes, but it's a different type of competition. Your accuracy is tested when you can have a conversation that continues to flow. Your longevity or your endurance is tested when you're in it for years instead of months. Because a lot of people get out of sales because they can't hack it. So if you treat yourself like an athlete and you sharpen your mind, which is your axe, do you know the quote from Abraham Lincoln?
Which one?
If I'm asked to cut down a tree, I will spend 4 hours sharpening the axe and 2 hours cutting it down. Or if I'm given 6, it's something like that.
Yeah,
it's more
yeah.
time sharpening your tool than it is using it. So if you treat yourself like an athlete, and athletes are always doing what? Working on recovery, working on their skill set. You have to do that in order to be effective in sales. So what I teach is mindset, it's sales skills, it's roofing specific, but it's all encompassing. Primary thing is what's in between your head is the most powerful thing you have. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If I'm a business owner who's not doing door knocking and I have a perception of door knocking, I'm not going to do it because of that perception. What business are you giving up? Let's put it this way. So if you have a plumber, they're going into a neighborhood and they're working on one house. They're sending a technician, right? What would happen if they sent a salesperson with that technician to door knock, not with that homeowner, but the ones around? Say, hey, we're working with this homeowner, blah, 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 blah. Just curious if you guys needed anything. You know what I mean? That's potential business, and you're just saying, hey, we're working with
Yeah,
them.
because people are going to be like, what's going on over there? They're already, if they're home, they're going to be curious. And then it's a great opportunity to spark some conversation.
Exactly, and you're not hard selling. You're saying, hey, we're working with your neighbor. I'm just curious what's going on. Have you guys had your sewer scoped in a while?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is. Like that, it's not a hard sell, it's a soft sell. And then you're leaving a flyer, you're leaving a card. Maybe they don't need you right now, but in 6 weeks when they have a pipe burst, you got that business because you knocked that door one time and said, hey, hello, my name is. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think this has been great. I think we need to do a part 2 and dig a little deeper into some of these topics. So if you're
I would love to.
okay.
Yeah.
How can people follow you? Are you guys like online? And what are some?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram. We don't do a whole lot of, like big advertising on there, but we'll post different jobs, that kind of thing on there, just to show the befores and afters. But I think Facebook is, capital, all caps, big, and then house construction.
Okay.
And Instagram is big_house_ construction _LLC.
Yeah, and then they'll have to look up Joe Boone
Yeah.
on your Facebook, and we'll link your Amazon books
Cool.
on
Yeah.
here too.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast today, and all your hard work and dedication to
Yeah.
your team and everything that you do. It's amazing. So thank you,
I
Joe.
appreciate that.